The village of Lag has been in constant conflict with the demi-humans that inhabit this world. One of the soldiers, Kai, teams up with his friend Manso to take down a gorilla-like monster. However, even the power of friendship isn't enough because Kai's combat skills are absolutely terrible. Just when Kai is cornered and on the brink of death, he is saved at the last second by Orha, a powerful warrior who has been appointed as the guardian of the village. Blessed by the valley god, Orha is the strongest among them. He effortlessly cuts down the apes one by one until he finally faces the gorilla guardian, the most powerful of the beasts. You might think this would be a real challenge, but Orha slices it in half within seconds. With the threat eliminated, the soldiers begin harvesting the gorilla bodies. One of them hands Orha a mysterious orb, something that suspiciously resembles gorilla nuts. Without hesitation, Orha drinks the liquid inside. Thankfully, it's not what it looks like. These are called God Stones, and the fluid within them is said to greatly enhance spiritual power and physical strength. Logically, you'd think every soldier should drink from a God Stone to grow stronger. But no, the rules state that only tiny drops are permitted for regular soldiers. The rest of the God Stones must be reserved for guardian bearers like Orha. So, while Orha gets even stronger, the average soldiers like Kai remain weak, and no one questions this unfair system. After returning to the village, a large celebration is held in honor of their victory over the apes. But even the food distribution at the banquet reflects the strict class system. High-status individuals and the children of the chief get lavish plates of meat, while low-ranking soldiers like Kai are left with a small bowl of soup. The soup isn't terrible, but Kai still longs for the better food, something he won't taste unless his status rises. Determined, Kai vows to become stronger. Immediately after the banquet, he heads out to train as hard as he can. But it's difficult to train on an empty stomach. Starving, he shouts that he wishes he could eat some rice balls. Moments later, Manso arrives and curiously asks what rice balls are. Kai admits he doesn't really know. The word just suddenly popped into his head one day. Still, he has a feeling rice balls must be delicious. As they talk, Kai points toward the hill where the village buries its fallen soldiers. One hill is carefully maintained, home to the graves of those with families who still visit them. But right next to it lies another hill, neglected and overgrown, where orphans and those forgotten by society are buried. Kai, being an orphan himself, knows this is where he will end up unless he can make something of his life. That's why Kai is so desperate to become stronger, to survive and live a life that matters. He has no choice but to endure tiny food portions and train harder than anyone else. Still, he knows that even hard work might not be enough. What he really needs is a special ability, something to give him an edge on the battlefield. At that very moment, in a distant castle, Orha and his sister Jose are walking toward their father's room. Orha tells Jose that she doesn't need to concern herself with war briefings, as she's not expected to fight like he is. Still, Jose insists she wants to help defend the village too. But Orha dismisses her, saying that a daughter of the chief's family has no need to learn how to fight. No matter how much she pleads, he refuses to allow it. Jose thinks it's unfair. Just because she's a girl, she's forbidden from fighting in battles. As if to rub it in, when she looks out the window, she sees Kai and Manso outside training and having fun. Since Manso is older and stronger, he easily outmatches Kai, who is left on the defensive. Manso tells him that he'll never get stronger unless he learns to attack. So Kai gives it a try, but leaves himself completely open. Manso takes the chance to knock him down hard, and Kai hits his head on the ground. As a result, Kai suffers a massive concussion, and then something strange happens. Memories from a past life in Japan suddenly flood into his mind. While flipping through these visions, he distinctly remembers the word magic. However, once he regains consciousness, the word feels foreign again. Magic doesn't exist in this world, at least not officially. This isn't the first time Kai has experienced unfamiliar memories. In fact, it's not uncommon in this world for people to see strange visions from another life. But Kai doesn't think it's worth mentioning to anyone. Sure, the memories gave him ideas about things like rice balls and magic, but they're useless here, especially when magic was considered nothing more than a fairy tale in Japan. Still, if he could somehow use magic, he'd be able to stand out in the next battle, and maybe even raise his status. Meanwhile, back at the castle, the village chief receives a letter from a neighboring village. It warns that their village is under attack by orcs. According to the alliance agreement, the people of Ba are required to send reinforcements immediately. The chief hesitates. His soldiers have barely recovered from the battle against the apes, but Ora argues that it's a soldier's duty to march and die for the village. The chief pushes back, reminding him that soldiers are still part of the village and shouldn't be treated like disposable pawns. Back at the barracks, Kai struggles to sleep. He can't stop thinking about the idea of magic. Manso notices something's off and asks him what's wrong. Kai says it's nothing serious. He just had a dream where he could create fire from nothing. Expecting Manso to laugh at him, he's surprised when Manso actually says he's heard of something similar. He recalls an old tale about a strange traveler who once visited the village. The man had no kindling to make a fire, but simply raised a finger, and a flame appeared out of thin air. Kai is stunned. There might actually be a record of someone using magic. Manso warns that it's just a story, so there's no proof it's real. Still, this gives Kai hope. The next day, he finds a secluded spot and begins training. He still doesn't understand how magic works, but he remembers something about mysterious energy, so he guesses it might be connected to spiritual energy. He focuses, holds out his finger, and tries to command his spiritual energy to produce fire, but nothing happens. He then attempts to circulate his energy through his god stones, hoping that will help, but again, nothing works. Meanwhile, orcs have been spotted just outside the neighboring village. They've already killed a dozen soldiers, and the rest quickly mobilize for battle. The troops wait at the forest's edge to scout the orcs, and once they spot them, the clash begins. The orcs attack immediately. Manso stabs one through the heart, and Kai, eager to prove himself, rushes ahead for a kill. But then an orc hurls a corpse at him, pinning Kai against a tree. Another orc, Yor, approaches Kai and is about to strike the final blow, until it's shot with multiple arrows and finished off by Manso. Furious, Manso scolds Kai for charging in alone and orders him to get back in formation. But Kai has injured his leg. He can't even walk. Meanwhile, Orha is decimating the orcs. The enemy quickly realizes they stand no chance against him and begins to flee. But Ora refuses to let them escape. He breaks from the formation and charges after them, abandoning the rest of the soldiers. This leaves the remaining troops to fight the orcs alone, and without Orha, they're overwhelmed. The squad leader makes a tough call and orders everyone to scatter so most can survive. But with Kai's injured leg, he and Manso have no chance of escaping. The orc is approaching fast, but Kai doesn't want to drag his friends down with him. He stops Manso and tells him to escape without him. Manso doesn't want to leave Kai behind, but he knows he has no choice. With a heavy heart, he apologizes and promises to visit Kai's grave. Manso runs off in one direction, while Kai hobbles away in another. Although Kai knows he's hopelessly outmatched, he refuses to give up. When he hears the orc closing in, he desperately tries to cast fire magic, but once again, nothing happens. Moments later, the orc throws its blade, and it strikes Kai in the shoulder, severely wounding him. But there's a small silver lining. The near-death experience causes sparks to fly from Kai's fingertips. Maybe he can use magic after all. Before he can process it, the orc bursts from the bushes and begins strangling him. In that moment of desperation, Kai notices the sparks again. This time, he fully understands what they mean. He points his hand at the orc's face and, using every ounce of willpower left in his body, summons a blast of fire. The orc screams in agony as flames consume it, and Kai manages to escape its grip. The orc eventually collapses from the damage, and Kai feels proud. He finally defeated a monster all by himself. But there's just one problem. His hand is still on fire. He frantically tries to put out the flames, but it's no use. His spiritual energy is being consumed at an alarming rate. If he doesn't stop it, he'll die of exhaustion. He needs to calm down and think. If spiritual energy is like a dam, then the fire spell opened the floodgates. All he has to do is mentally close the dam. Easier said than done, especially since the orc is still alive and crawling toward him. Kai eventually manages to cut off the flow of energy and stop the fire. But by then, the orc has already reached him. Although badly burned, it's still moving. It picks up Kai but doesn't kill him. That's when Kai realizes the orc must be blind from the fire and doesn't realize he's still alive. There's no way he can win another fight in his current state, but if he's going to die, he wants to take the orc down with him. As the orc walks near a cliff edge, Kai suddenly slashes it across the chest. The two of them fall off the cliff into the river below. Somehow, Kai survives the fall and drags himself out of the water with his knife still in hand. he spots the orc's corpse nearby, this time definitely dead. Knowing he's still dangerously low on spiritual energy, Kai cuts into the orc's body and retrieves its god stone. Without hesitation, he drinks the entire liquid inside. As the spiritual energy flows back into him, Kai begins to feel alive again. He collapses under a nearby tree to rest. It's the first time he's ever consumed a full god stone, and it seems like his spiritual energy won't be a problem anymore. Unfortunately, the wound on his shoulder is still bleeding heavily. He's convinced he's going to die out here, but at least he'll die looking at a beautiful sunset. Meanwhile, back in the village, the surviving soldiers have returned and are preparing to celebrate their victory over the orcs. But Manso isn't in the mood for celebration. Another soldier notices his expression and tells him to cheer up. When he asks where Kai is, since the two are usually inseparable, it suddenly hits him. Kai must have died. But instead of offering comfort, he callously tells Manso to forget about Kai, calling him worthless. That night, Kai sleeps under the tree. By morning, he's shocked to find that he's still alive. Not only that, he feels better than ever. His broken leg is healed and the wound on his shoulder has sealed. While he's grateful, he's also confused. Drinking a god stone should restore energy, but not heal life-threatening injuries overnight. He looks behind him and notices a stone wall covered in inscriptions. Curious, he tries to get a closer look, but thick ivy blocks the text. Using his fire magic, Kai burns the ivy away, but his power is much stronger than expected. The blast launches him across the valley. As he regains his footing, Kai catches a glimpse of his reflection in the water, and he's stunned to see a divine crest on his face. This is the mark of a guardian bearer. But before he can process it, the crest fades. He assumes it must have been his imagination. Still curious about the stone, he walks back to examine the inscriptions more carefully. Unfortunately, they're written in a language he doesn't understand. Giving up for now, he decides to return to his village. He spots a cliff face that looks climbable and begins scaling it. Just as he reaches for a handhold, his divine crest flashes again, and he accidentally crushes the rock with sheer strength. The rock Kai was holding onto crumbles, and he falls back into the valley. At first, he thinks the stone must have been weak, but then he grabs another, only to crush it effortlessly. That's when it hits him. He's received a massive power boost from drinking the god stone. Overjoyed, Kai celebrates his newfound strength. But his celebration is cut short when he hears a voice whisper, "Go." Not wanting to discover who or what it was, he quickly starts climbing the cliff at full speed. Once he reaches the top, he's amazed by how easy it was, and even more thrilled by how powerful he's become. Still, Kai begins to wonder, is this the power of divine protection? The divine crest, symbol of a guardian bearer, is said to be granted by the land gods. But Kai doesn't remember receiving any blessing. Perhaps it happened while he was unconscious. Until he knows for sure, it's best to keep this a secret from the village. Back in Lag, Manso has just finished making a grave for Kai. But to his shock, Kai casually walks up, alive and well. Overjoyed, Manso embraces him, and things soon return to normal. Except this time, Kai is far more capable at his duties. Assigned to plow a small section of the field, he finishes the entire thing with barely a drop of sweat. He panics for a moment, afraid his divine crest might be visible, but after checking his reflection in the water, it's gone. It must only appear when he exerts himself too much. So as long as he doesn't overdo things, his secret is safe. Other villagers start asking questions about his sudden strength. Caught off guard, Kai decides to be honest. He reveals that he drank the god stone of the orc he defeated. Everyone is stunned. Ordinary soldiers aren't allowed to consume full god stones. But given that Kai was mortally wounded at the time, he had no choice. He even admits to drinking the god stones of nearly 40 orcs while returning to the village. Now, his strength makes sense. Manso congratulates him for surviving such a harrowing experience. Meanwhile, Elsa, a young village woman, keeps staring at Kai, prompting her friends to tease her about it. Elsewhere in the village, Princess Jose visits the storage house to speak with the inventory checker. He informs her that all the grave offerings are prepared, and she can depart for the grave cleaning whenever she's ready. Early the next morning, Kai practices his fire magic, which has noticeably improved. As he trains, Jose approaches and questions him. His actions look suspicious. Since she's royalty, Kai has no choice but to obey. He explains everything about his fire ability. Surprisingly, Jose doesn't seem shocked. She's heard of people with similar powers, though such individuals usually belong to noble families or are monks. That makes Kai a rare exception, especially since he doesn't seem the least bit fatigued, even after using a large amount of spiritual energy. Jose recalls a rumor that Kai became stronger after consuming a large number of God stones, suggesting he now has a much larger spiritual energy reservoir than the average person. She asks him to train with her, and Kai, having no authority to refuse, agrees. Soon after, the two are sparring with practice spears. While Kai is far stronger than before, Jose is a guardian bearer, so defeating her would require serious effort. But Kai doesn't want to risk exposing his divine crest, so he carefully holds back his power. After the duel, Kai heads to the well to fetch water. He's honestly surprised he managed to hold back so well and still compete. That means he's now so powerful that even a guardian bearer like Jose wouldn't stand a chance if he went all out. Just then, Jose asks him to bring her water too. As she washes her face, Kai asks if all guardian bearers are equally strong. She explains that she's actually one of the weaker ones. Her father and brother are far more powerful. A guardian bearer's strength depends not only on the protection of their land god, but also on their personal training. And when it comes to training, Jose admits she's lacking. Technically, as a woman, she's not obligated to fight. But as a guardian bearer, she has a sacred duty to protect the people in battle. Strength isn't just about power, there are deeper responsibilities. Kai is confused and asks her to elaborate, but before she can, the morning rooster crows. She realizes she's not supposed to be outside right now, and needs to return to the castle before anyone notices her absence. Before leaving, Kai asks again what she meant about a guardian bearer's true duty. Though she'd like to explain, it's against the rules. Instead, she offers him an alternative. If he accompanies her on her upcoming monthly grave cleaning duty, she'll explain everything then. Her land god is enshrined in a village, and she promises to make the arrangements for Kai to join her there. Kai agrees to accompany Jose, and a few days later, she departs for a nearby village along with Kai and a small group of soldiers. Their job is to protect Jose during the trip, as the route runs through ape territory. However, the soldiers find it odd that they were suddenly assigned to this task. Usually, a different squad handles escort duties for the chief's daughter. One soldier even mentions a rumor. Apparently, Jose personally requested Kai to come along, which is why their entire unit was chosen. He asks Kai if it's true, and just as Kai is about to respond, Manso cuts in and tells them to stop teasing. There's no way the princess even knows who Kai is, he scoffs. Eventually, they arrive at the village, but Kai is shocked to find nothing but ruins. The place was overrun by monsters years ago, forcing the residents to abandon it. Still, a gravestone remains, and it's their duty to maintain it in the name of the land god. Sadly, the power of this village's land god has weakened so much that the soil has turned completely barren. Just then, Jose approaches and says she wants to explore the area, and she needs a guard. One of the soldiers immediately volunteers, but to everyone's surprise, Jose specifically requests Kai instead. As Kai and Jose walk through the ruined village, they come across a small flower garden. Jose kneels and begins praying. Kai wants to ask what she's doing, but she quickly instructs him to stay quiet. A soft red aura begins flowing from Jose into the flowers. When she finishes, she explains that she was praying for the land god's grace to gather at the site. This is a special ritual that only guardian bearers, those spiritually bound to a land god, can perform. But, because this village was abandoned, its land god's power has faded, which is one reason Jose isn't as strong as her father or brother. In contrast, the village of Lag thrives thanks to her father's immense strength. He's never neglected his training because if he were to grow weak, it could mean the end of the village. While land gods grant power to their bearers, that power depends on the bearer's strength and spiritual potential. That's why all guardian bearers must constantly train and consume god stones to grow stronger. Afterward, Kai and Jose return to the others. It's time to clean the gravestone, so they all descend into the ruins while a few soldiers stay behind to stand guard. While cleaning the gravestone, Kai takes a closer look, and to his surprise, it's the same kind of ancient stone he found back in the valley. When he touches the inscription, the text automatically translates in his mind. It mentions the name of the land god that once protected this place. Intrigued, Kai walks to the other side of the stone to read more, but this time, the words don't form a coherent sentence. He can understand individual terms like pact and temple, but they don't connect logically. As he mutters to himself in confusion, Jose notices and asks if something's wrong. Kai is about to answer, but accidentally catches a glimpse of Jose's cleavage, and quickly looks away, flustered. Suddenly, a soldier rushes in to report. A group of apes is approaching fast. The group quickly tries to cover up the grave before fleeing, but the apes arrive before they can escape. The captain orders Kai and Manso to escort Jose back to safety while the others hold off the attackers. However, while fleeing, 2 apes cut them off. Manso prepares to fight them, but one of the apes stomps through Jose's flower garden, which she worked so hard to protect. In a burst of rage, she steps forward and shouts that she'll kill the beast for what it's done. The ape hesitates at the sight of Jose's tattoos, recognizing her status, but when it realizes she lacks actual combat experience and is shaking in fear, it charges. Just as it's about to strike, Kai slashes it across the chest, saving her. Then he spots the second ape attacking Manso's group. Thinking fast, Kai grabs a nearby axe, strikes the ape in the shoulder, then leaps into the air, and drives the blade into its head, killing it instantly. Everyone is stunned. No one expected Kai to take down 2 apes by himself, but Jose is especially shaken. For a brief moment during the fight, she clearly saw the guardian bearer tattoos flash across Kai's face. After returning to the village of Lag, Jose is immediately scolded by her brother Orha. He had heard how she nearly got herself killed by jumping into battle, and he angrily reminds her that this is exactly why he doesn't approve of her fighting alongside soldiers. However, Moloch steps in to calm him down, saying that the most important thing is that Jose is safe. For now, he suggests they shift their focus to increasing patrols in the surrounding area, especially since the inspector will be visiting soon. Aura agrees and leaves to inform the soldiers about the new patrol schedule. Once he's gone, Jose apologizes to her father, Moloch, for causing trouble. But to her surprise, he isn't angry. He already knows the full story, including how Kai single-handedly defeated 2 apes, and he's eager to see what Kai is capable of in the future. Meanwhile, Kai is busy running errands when a few of his friends grab him and start teasing. Everyone in the village is calling Kai a hero now for saving Jose during the expedition to Itia village, and rumors are spreading that the 2 of them got really close while they were away. Some of the village girls see this and assume the boys are just messing around again, but Elso can't take her eyes off Kai. The other girls quickly catch on. Elso definitely has feelings for him. They tease her, warning that if she doesn't talk to Kai soon, someone else will. And it looks like they were right, because moments later, Jose walks up to Kai and asks to speak with him in private. Although Kai has no idea what this is about, he agrees. The 2 of them walk into a quiet back alley, where Jose formally thanks Kai for saving her life in ETA. She then admits that during the battle, she thought she saw a divine crest appear on Kai's face. But now that she's looking at him up close, she assumes she was just hallucinating. After all, what are the chances that Kai, of all people, became a guardian bearer? Still, her failure in battle made her realize just how weak she is. Determined to grow stronger, she tells Kai that from now on, they'll be training together every morning, and she expects him to show up. Kai doesn't exactly want to get roped into Jose's intense routine, but he can't say no, so he agrees. What they don't realize is that Kai's friends have been spying from behind a tree, one that's far too small to hide them. They have no idea what the 2 are talking about, but they're incredibly jealous that Kai gets to spend time with Jose. Later that day, Kai is chopping wood when Elsa approaches with a bowl of water. She shyly asks if he'd like a drink, since he must be thirsty from all the work. Kai gratefully accepts, thanking her for being so considerate. Just then, one of Elsa's friends calls out to her, reminding her they still have chores to finish. Kai assumes Elsa was just being nice, but Manso knows better. He tells Kai he's a lucky man, clearly hinting at Elsa's feelings. Suddenly, Kai hears a strange bird call in the distance, and he recognizes it as the same one he heard back in the valley. He's puzzled. Why would it be here? That night, Kai lies in bed, unable to sleep. He keeps hearing that same bird call echoing in the dark. Eventually, curiosity gets the better of him. He gets up, leaps over the village wall with ease thanks to his enhanced strength, and sprints back to the valley where everything began. Once he reaches the tree near the ancient god's stone, he sees the same stone tablet again. Now that he knows it's a god's gravestone, he tries to read the inscriptions. But oddly, he can't understand them this time. Even so, he bows and thanks the land god for saving his life, then spends the night cleaning the gravestone as a sign of gratitude. He even leaves a small offering at its base before making his way back to Lag village. On the way, he gets hungry, so he drinks from the river and picks a few fruits from a nearby tree. He's amazed by the sheer amount of food available in the wild and thinks to himself, maybe I could live out here. And just like that, a brilliant idea strikes him. He could build a house in the forest and live freely. But to build a house, he'll need wood. Kai climbs a nearby cliff and spots a tall, sturdy tree that looks perfect for cutting. But once he's up close, he realizes a problem. His dagger won't be enough to chop down something this big. So, he decides to try something new. Using his fire magic, he boosts the output to form a fiery blade around his hand. It works well on metal, but on wood, not so much. The moment he swings, he accidentally starts a forest fire. Thankfully, he manages to extinguish it before a land god notices. Still, it's clear he needs a better strategy. After calming down, Kai tells himself, if I can create fire from nothing, I can figure out how to cut a tree. That's when a memory from high school chemistry suddenly resurfaces. In an instant, Kai recalls everything about molecular structures from his past life in Japan. Apparently, Kai had paid more attention in science class than he realized. Kai knows that to cut down the massive tree, he needs to find a way to break the molecular bonds within it. Placing his hand on the bark, he begins focusing his spiritual energy, attempting to manifest it in a way that could slice through the tree at a structural level. But before he can make progress, he hears something moving nearby, from the direction of the valley. Curious and cautious, he decides to check it out. As we look back, it's revealed that Kai actually succeeded. The tree's molecules have been cleanly split. When Kai reaches the valley, he finds a group of children equipped with climbing gear, preparing to descend into the valley. Ready to defend the sacred place, Kai leaps down, mentally prepared to throw hands with some disrespectful kids. But as he gets closer, he realizes these aren't children, they're just short. Their leader steps forward and introduces himself as Pork, the chief of the Kora people. Kai has never heard of the Koras before, and finds it odd that Pork can speak the human language so fluently. Pork explains that they've had previous interactions with human merchants, and their goods are considered top quality by humans. That aside, Pork apologizes for coming without permission. He explains that they've arrived to fulfill an ancient pact made with the great valley god who resides here. From their legends, they believe the valley god resembles a human, and as such, they think Kai is the valley god. Pork continues, explaining that the Koras have lived quietly in the forest for generations, worshipping the land gods. But a few days ago, they were attacked by orcs who wanted to steal their land god. Being a peaceful people, the Koras stood no chance and were forced to flee their home. Addressing Kai as an arbitration god, Pork pleads for help in reclaiming their land. Kai, still reeling from all this, asks what exactly an arbitration god is. Pork explains that in ancient lore, an arbitration god is a divine being who has inherited the power of creation, tasked with protecting the creatures of the forest. Kai, understandably, finds it hard to believe that the legend refers to him. Just then, another Kora speaks up, doubting Kai's identity. He claims an arbitration god is supposed to be a fierce warrior who punishes those who disrupt the land, and Kai doesn't exactly look threatening. But Pork is confident. He insists that he can see it, not literally, but spiritually. Years ago, he trespassed into the valley and was punished by the valley god, who took both of his eyes. But in exchange, he gained the ability to see spiritual energy. When he looks at Kai, he sees the unmistakable energy of the valley god flowing through him. So to Pork, there is no doubt. Kai has the god's protection and must be the arbitration god. To strengthen his case, Pork mentions they've already made a sacrifice to the valley god, which shocks Kai. He urgently asks what they sacrificed. Pork calmly explains that earlier that day, he sacrificed his granddaughter Aru to the valley. Kai panics and demands to see where she is. The chorus lead him to the rope Aru had used to descend into the valley, but it snapped long ago, and she likely fell. Kai dives into the valley, where he finds Aru at the bottom, still alive but badly injured and bleeding. She doesn't have long. Desperate, Kai recalls how his own wounds healed when he first encountered this place. He focuses his energy and envisions Aru's injuries mending. Somehow, he is able to visualize the structure of her tissue, despite never studying biology before. But now he remembers something oddly specific from high school. The mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. With this absurd but valuable knowledge, Kai manages to heal Aru's wounds. He's stunned that it actually worked, but knows she still needs time to rest. Suddenly, he hears a commotion at the top of the valley. The orcs have attacked. The Koras, being virtually defenseless, stand little chance. Several have already been killed. Just in time, Kai arrives and stabs one of the orcs through the chest, saving them. But the orc responsible for most of the deaths, their leader, steps forward. He flaunts his divine crest, trying to intimidate Kai. His cleaver still drips with the blood of the Koras he slaughtered. But Kai isn't backing down. He's not alone in his fury. He begins hearing a voice in his head, filled with rage, demanding that he kill the orc and strike fear into its heart. Kai realizes the voice belongs to the valley god. As the god's guardian bearer, Kai vows to carry out its will. Before the battle begins, Pork steps forward and offers to help. He may not be as strong, but he too is a guardian bearer and will do what he can. Kai is grateful for the support. It'll make things easier. To show the orcs what they're dealing with, Kai activates his own divine crest. The orcs' confidence crumbles as they realize they're facing not one, but two guardian bearers. Still, their leader forces them to attack. The first two are instantly slain by Kai. One orc tries to ambush Kai while he's distracted, but Pork leaps in and cuts it down, protecting him. Kai thanks him, though Pork admits he can only handle the weaker orcs. He tells Kai that the orc guardian bearer, their leader, is his fight. Without hesitation, Kai picks up a cleaver and begins walking toward the final enemy. The orc leader quickly realizes he's in deep trouble, so it tries using talk no jutsu, the ancient art of talking your way out of getting wrecked. This orc, unlike most, can speak the human language. He tells Kai there's no need to fight and claims he only meant to attack the Koras, not offend Kai personally. Normally, Kai wouldn't be this furious, but the orcs didn't just kill innocent Koras, they did it in his valley. And now, blue spiritual energy radiates from Kai's body like a divine warning. The orc begins begging for mercy, but Kai has none to give. In a desperate last move, the orc charges. But Kai calmly slices off its arm with an energy blade, then drives it straight through the orc's chest, ripping out its god stone. Pork, watching the scene unfold, is now more convinced than ever that Kai is the very god who took his eyes long ago, an ancient being that has watched over the world since before even the age of gods, the arbitrator. This is Kai's first time killing a guardian bearer. Pork explains that if one drinks the godstone of a fallen guardian bearer, they inherit the fallen's power. These are far more potent than ordinary god stones, granting tremendous strength. Kai splits the stone in two, but before drinking, he offers half to Pork in gratitude for fighting beside him. Pork is surprised and asks if he's truly sure, to which Kai simply replies, "You earned it." Both men drink. Pork immediately drops to his knees. The surge of power from a guardian bearer's stone is overwhelming. Kai seems fine at first, but then collapses in agony. The Koras rush to him, worried, but Kai assures them he just needs to rest. He returns to the valley and warns them not to disturb him or enter the valley without his permission. While resting, Kai has a nightmare, a memory from childhood. His original village was burned down by apes, forcing him to flee and eventually find refuge in Lag. The next morning, Kai wakes up and is shocked to find a blanket covering him. Even more shocking, Aru is sleeping next to him. Startled, Kai demands to know what she's doing. Aru explains that she didn't want him to catch a cold and was trying to keep him warm. Though Kai had saved her life, she reminds him that she was offered to the valley and has vowed to serve him for the rest of her life. Kai says he doesn't need a servant and tells her to go home, but Aru insists she can't. Pork warned her that if she fails her duty as an offering, great misfortune would fall upon the Koras. She refuses to leave. As Kai tries convincing her otherwise, he realizes the sun is rising, and he needs to get back to Lag before anyone realizes he's been gone. He leaps up the valley cliffs with ease, but is stunned to find the Koras still waiting there. He thought they would have left. Pork explains they have nowhere else to go. Their old village is gone, and they wish to stay near the valley, pledging themselves to the valley god. Kai sympathizes with them and agrees, but with one strict rule: no one is to enter the valley without his permission. As he prepares to leave, Pork tells him there's something important he must know. A little while later, Kai returns to Lag, only to be scolded by Jose. He's late for their morning training. She demands to know where he was, but Kai can't exactly say "I was busy being a literal god," so he just claims he overslept. Later, Chief Moloch approaches some of Kai's friends, asking where he is. Manso tells him that Kai is on storage house duty near the castle. Eventually, Bezin, Jose's father and Lag's chief warrior, finds Kai and challenges him to a duel. After hearing about how Kai protected Jose, he wants to see Kai's strength for himself. Thankfully, it's just a friendly match. Bezin assures Kai he won't be killed. Kai is relieved, but he remembers what Pork told him: don't reveal your powers yet. As a new guardian bearer, Kai would be an easy target if word got out. So, during the duel, he must hide his divine crest at all costs. As the match starts, Bezin makes the first move. Kai dodges his attacks, But he's getting heated, and his divine crest begins to glow. Panicking, Kai calms himself and suppresses it. He still has to fight, so he charges in and strikes with a spear. But Bezin is so tanky that the spear shatters on impact. Now weaponless, Kai is forced to fight barehanded. To his credit, he doesn't give up, but like the first guy in the gorilla fight, Kai gets launched. He's winded, but conscious. The duel is over. Bezin, satisfied with the match, offers his hand to help Kai up and says that from tomorrow onward, he will personally train him. Kai doesn't want to, but turning down the chief isn't an option. Meanwhile, Jose is amazed that Kai managed to hold his own so well against her father. Alva, however, remains unimpressed. As far as he's concerned, Kai is still just a regular commoner. However, Jose is already busy thinking about her next training session with Kai. After Bezin leaves, Manso and the rest of Kai's friends come over to check on him. Once they know he's alright, they burst out laughing, because now Kai is stuck training with both Jose and Bezin. With the chief and the princess constantly demanding his time, Kai hasn't been able to leave the village in a while. But finally, he gets the chance to sneak out again. Excited, Kai returns to the valley, but his mood quickly sours when he spots a fire coming from a house nearby. Furious, he assumes the Koras disobeyed his orders and moved into the valley. But when he goes to investigate, he realizes it's just Aru. Technically, Kai forbade the Koras from entering the valley, but Aru never left, so she isn't breaking any rules. In fact, she's been preparing for Kai's return and even brings him a home-cooked meal. Kai was just about to tell her to leave, but the moment he sees the food, he completely forgets his anger. When Aru asks if he likes it, Kai tells her it's delicious. Beyond the taste, it's also the largest meal he's ever had. Back in Lag, he usually only gets tiny portions, so for a moment, he wishes he could stay in the valley forever. Surprisingly, the next day at the village cafeteria, Kai receives a decently sized meal. The lunch lady says it's because he's been working hard lately. Kai thanks her, but his friends get jealous and ask why he's getting special treatment. She simply reminds them that they've been slacking off. If they want more food, they need to work harder. Meanwhile, on the other side of the cafeteria, Elsa is distracted watching Kai, and she accidentally dumps a huge portion of food on a random villager's plate. Now she has to convince him to give it back. Over the next few days, Kai falls into a comfortable routine, sneaking out of Lag at night to check on the valley. He even helps Aru build a house. Of course, there's no way he can finish it in one day, so the first step is to cut down a tree using his energy blade. Each morning, Kai returns to Lag and trains with Jose, then sneaks back to the valley at night to keep building. He's getting used to living this double life, and honestly, he enjoys it. One day, Kai and his friends are assigned to move a massive boulder to clear space for farming. Even with all of them working together, they can't budge it. So, Bezin steps in. With everyone watching, he lifts the boulder with sheer strength. Even for someone as powerful as Bezin, it's an incredible feat. But after a few seconds, he lifts it over his head. Now the land can be tilled and Lag Village will prosper even more. Seeing this motivates Kai. He wants to become a great guardian bearer like Bezin. So that night, while in the valley, Kai practices his powers. He tries to make a flower bloom, but no matter how much energy he pours into it, the flower refuses to respond. Even though he's grown stronger physically, he realizes he still has a long way to go to master his spiritual powers. The next morning, Kai heads out early and unexpectedly runs into Elsa in the flower fields. He asks why she's up so early, and she says she just wants to admire the flowers while they're blooming. Kai admits he's never really noticed how beautiful they are before. Elsa says the flowers remind her of the ones from the village she and Kai grew up in. Kai is confused until Elsa reminds him that they both came from the same village, the one destroyed years ago. She's upset he doesn't remember since they escaped together when their home burned down. But to be fair, Kai was very young and most of those memories are fuzzy. Even if Kai wasn't paying attention to Elsa back then, she had always been watching him. She tells him she's amazed that he managed to earn Bezin's respect. But Kai humbly responds that he still has a long way to go. He's nowhere near Bezin's level yet. He needs to keep training if he wants to survive. That sparks another memory in Elsa's mind. She tells Kai that on the day their village was attacked, while everyone was evacuating, an ape suddenly ambushed them. None of the villagers knew how to fight, so they were doomed, until Kai, just a kid, fearlessly ran at the ape and grabbed its leg. Of course, he was far too weak to do any damage, but his bravery bought enough time for Bezin to arrive and save them. Kai remembers being relieved, but also frustrated that he couldn't do more. That's the day he swore to become stronger, though he had forgotten that oath until now. Elsa assures him that it meant a lot. Even if he doesn't remember it clearly, Kai saved everyone that day. In her eyes, he'll always be a hero. Meanwhile, deep in the forest, a brutal battle is underway between the apes and the orcs. The orc general is absolutely dominating. Even the ape guardian bearers stand no chance and are instantly beheaded. With the apes defeated, the orcs claim this territory as theirs. And now, their next target is Kai's valley. Right now, Kai is blissfully unaware that danger is rapidly approaching.